WRAL's breaking news tracker is live at the scene of a jet ski incident in Wake County. Staffing and keeping kids cool in the classroom. Big concerns as Wake County heads back to school today. How the district plans to fix consistent HVAC outages. Then a warning for parents after a local woman and her unborn baby die from a cup of water laced with fentanyl.
Think it's hot now? Just wait. Where the triple-digit heat index could spike and the new timing of storm threats through the holiday weekend.
Heat is back in the forecast and students are back in the classroom. It's a combination Wake County knows it needs to address. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dan Haggerty.
And I'm Ashley Rope. The school district says almost half of their chiller units will need to be replaced. We've seen issues as recently as this month when Lake Myra Elementary and Moore Square Magnet Middle closed early because of HVAC issues. Around this time last year, Apex Friendship, Willow Spring, and Millbrook High Schools all closed or dismissed early for similar issues.
WRAL's Destiny Patterson explains what the district is doing to prevent this from happening again.
Uncomfortably hot classrooms highlight what Superintendent Robert Taylor describes as a constant issue.
When something breaks down unexpectedly, that's when you begin to play whack-a-mole.
HVAC issues have shut down some Wake County schools for days at a time, including Lake Myra Elementary School and Moore Square Magnet Middle. The Senior Director of Maintenance and Operations says the district has 148 units that are due for replacement or will be in the next 5 years. His department received 5,800 emergency work orders over the past year. Half of those orders were HVAC related, but understaffing makes it difficult to keep up.
The last position that I filled has been open for 3 years.
Only about half of the district's HVAC technician positions are currently filled. They have no chiller technicians on staff.
So it seems like we're always putting out a fire rather than being proactive.
School board members called for concrete plans to address the equipment and staffing issues.
What I need to be satisfied as a board member to support all these great things that we're hearing, what are you all planning on doing next?
This problem didn't crop up yesterday or last month or years ago. It has been decades, if not longer, in the making. You all remember there was a Great Recession back in the 2000s, and so we just haven't kept up.
This is one of the presentations made during today's committee meeting. You can see they plan to spend more than $22 million for HVAC projects in fiscal year 2025. School board members also asked staffers to share exactly how much it'll cost to replace these aging systems so that they can address it. Destiny Patterson, WRAL News, Wake County.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lena Tillett in the WRAL Live Center following some developing news out of Wake County where crews are on the scene of Harris Lake investigating a jet ski incident. There are a number of law enforcement vehicles still here at the lake here, including this ambulance. Unclear if anyone was hurt. I do want to show you Google Earth here because this is where crews were called to, 4424 Bartley Holloman Road. That appears to be the west side of the lake. At this point, we don't have a lot of information about what they're investigating. We do have some videos showing all of the crews responding to this incident at Harris Lake. We know the North Carolina Wildlife is also at the scene there trying to get some information. Unclear, again, whether anyone was hurt. We are asking these questions. Again, the crews remain here at Harris Lake. So as soon as we get information, we'll bring it to you. Back to you.
All right, Lena. New warrants obtained by WRAL show a Raleigh mother and her unborn baby died from a fentanyl overdose. They're among the hundreds who die from overdose in our state every year. WRAL's Chelsea Donovan takes us through the case and the warning for parents.
So basically you have a murder with no weapon.
What Barbara Walsh is describing as fentanyl, a toxic poison her daughter died from unintentionally 3 years ago this month.
Basically, fentanyl puts someone to sleep like a dog.
Sophia drank what she thought was water in a bottle, except it was laced.
This young woman who is 24 years old, Apex High School grad, App State grad, professionally employed.
Fentanyl deaths happen every day. In fact, 12 people die from drug overdoses every day, according to the Department of Health and Human Services. A new search warrant issued by Raleigh police describes a recent suspected fentanyl death of a mother and her unborn child earlier this month here at these apartments in Southeast Raleigh. Police responded here to a woman in cardiac arrest on August 14th. A man inside the apartment told police that she took fentanyl and that the last time he saw her, she was watching a movie on her phone about an hour earlier before finding her unresponsive. Wake County EMS administered Narcan, a drug that reverses the symptoms of an opioid overdose. But the mother and her unborn baby died.
And this is Narcan. This is Cloxato. This is Revive.
According to the Office of the State Medical Examiner, there were 193 fentanyl-positive deaths in May alone in the state. However, yearly data is showing a downward trend. There were 3,354 fentanyl deaths in 2022, 3,341 in 2023, and just over 1,000 so far this year. As this week is International Overdose Awareness Week, Barb Walsh is hopeful parents can continue to educate their children about the dangers of fentanyl, an odorless, tasteless drug.
Right now, we're 7 out of 10 pills that are obtained not from a pharmacist contain fentanyl. Most people don't even know that it's in their pill or in a recreational drug or in a vape or in a drink.
Chelsea Donovan, WRAL News, Raleigh.
Just incredibly sad. Chelsea talked about the downward trend. Well, it does continue in North Carolina. 533 opioid overdose patients visited the ER last month. That's down from 872 in July of last year. There were 218 suspected overdose deaths. That's down from 348. But of course, while the numbers are better, that's still hundreds of people.
My biggest problem is I have what I call it my Amanda-shaped hole in my heart that is never going to be filled by anything else.
I think if there's anybody out there who's having suspicions about someone they love, maybe they need to hear Amanda's story.
We all tried different things and different combinations of things, and then we each wish we had done the thing the other person did, but we ended up with the same outcome. Our kids are dead.
Investigative reporter and producer Kristen Severance took a hard look at the opioid crisis, specifically on fentanyl overdoses. You can watch the WRAL documentary Crisis Next Door right now on WRALdoc.com. You can also watch it on the WRAL YouTube page.
If you haven't checked in on the news this evening, or you maybe just tuning in to us here on WRAL, we want to get you caught up with the 5 things you should know right now. A child was bitten by a snake on a playground at a preschool. EMS responded to La Petite Academy on Hedingham Boulevard, treated a child there. They didn't say what kind of snake it was or share the child's condition. The Raleigh Police Department is partnering with Holly Hill Hospital to help people in crisis. WRAL has been investigating Holly Hill since 5 teens escaped from the hospital in March. We found inspection reports showing multiple safety violations. We are asking Raleigh Police about how this partnership began and how it's going to work.
Investigation in Chapel Hill. UNC police are looking into graffiti painted onto the bell tower. They got the report on Saturday. If you have any information, call UNC police. Durham Public Schools still working out the back-to-school jitters when it comes to buses. Some parents told WRAL their buses have been late and they had to take them to school themselves. The district says there have been some delays, but pointed out today's timing was an improvement over yesterday. Members of NC State's 1983 championship basketball team believe they lost out on millions from major TV networks. They added CBS, TNT, and Turner Sports to their lawsuit, which was first filed in June. The former players want If you thought the Olympians had left Paris, think again. This week, the city welcomes 4,400 athletes for the Paralympics. They're competing in many of the same venues used for the games earlier this month. This competition involves 23 different disciplines. One of those disciplines is sitting volleyball. Players sit on the court using their whole body to move around. There are a few rules that are a little different from volleyball, to include a much lower net. And you know, one of the best in the world is from North Carolina. Heather Erickson is from Fayetteville. She was born with a bone that prevented her leg from fully developing. And after 18 failed surgeries, when she was 9 years old, her right leg was amputated below the knee. Now she is one of the most decorated volleyball players in North Carolina history. She's led teams to wins in the World Cup, the Pan American Games, Volleyball Masters, Euro Cups, the Super Six, and more. She won gold in the 2016 and 2020 Paralympics, plus numerous MVP awards. And this year, she was voted into the North Carolina Volleyball Hall of Fame. She joins us now from Paris, where Team USA's first game is scheduled for Friday. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, great to be here.
Hey, how about we start with looking ahead to the games? You competed in these events since 2008, most of your teens and your entire adult life. What makes this one special?
This one's special just because the team that we have this year going in, we've put in so much work and it's really become a family. And so these games are really just special because it's a lot of hard work, a lot of everything. And it's a time to really enjoy things and like putting in the mental work, the physical work. I'm coming off of a shoulder injury. And so kind of having all of those like trials and tribulations that I've had since Tokyo to now, like it's kind of a redemption game and just like enjoying the moment and enjoying all the work and all the hours and all the years that I've put in and this team has put in to become what we are. And so these games are really special, just enjoying the moment and being in the moment and really like cultivating everything that we've done.
Cool. Let's talk about your roots in North Carolina. You graduated from Jack Britt High School. Your brother, I understand, went to ECU. How did your time in North Carolina shape who you are today?
So North Carolina is actually where I was found for the sitting program. So I was playing in a club volleyball setting in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I went to a tournament with that team. And that is where sitting volleyball found me. And like, I got introduced to the sport itself. And then North Carolina actually like flew me out and paid to fly me out to my first camp to give me the option and the availability to like go and enjoy the sport and get introduced to it. And then from there, I made the team and I competed in Beijing when I was in a sophomore in high school. So I was at Jack Britt when I competed. I had a really amazing principal at Jack Britt that said that I'd learn more exploring the world than I would in the classroom. And so he really supported me and really like went to bat for me and really did what needed to be done to let me have these opportunities. So I'm always very grateful for the people that stepped up and really helped me through North Carolina.
It's so cool that you've been able to travel the world through this sport. And you don't just play volleyball, you coach it as well. You live in Oklahoma now, you coach a youth team there. Curious, tell us about your team and how taking on that coaching role has changed your perspective.
I mean, as a coach, you see how things influence the game a lot more. You see how the emotions handle things. You see how your attitude influences the team, and you see how really great teams can go and underperform because they can't play together. And then you see teams that maybe have less skill that can overperform because they know how to come together and play as a team. Coaching has made me a better player, and it's made me really like appreciate the sport a lot more for what it is.
Cool.
And so it's given me that avenue, which I love.
Let's get back to Paris. What's been a highlight of your trip so far? I know you've been there for a little while now, just getting acclimated.
We went and got to actually tour and see all the sites. We went on top of the Arc de Triomphe, and we were up there when the Eiffel Tower lit up. So that was probably the highlight of the day. But it's amazing to see the culture and to see the history and the streets and see how much Paris has like taken these games and like really made them really special for us as Paralympians. And I'm sure did the same as for the Olympians.
Heather, thank you again so much for joining us. Good luck through the games. I know you're going to do great, and I know you're going to have fun.
Thank you so much.
The opening ceremony of the Paralympic Games is Wednesday at 2 p.m. The competition runs until September 8th. Events will stream live on Peacock.
I love the connections that we learn about back here to our area. Amazing, great interview. I'm here with meteorologist Kat Campbell in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. You've been sharing something interesting with us as we've been going through hurricane season. We are in a bit of a sweet spot now. Of course, these storms are inevitable. If we were to get one, you're saying that now would kind of be the time.
I'd rather have one now in the next couple of weeks than 3, 4, 5 weeks from now. And this is why. You can see where we've got the blue, the lighter shades of orange. Earlier in the season, it was very, very warm ocean water, but we had Debbie, we had Ernesto, and that brought some of the cooler water up to the surface. And since hot water feeds these hurricanes and strengthens them, the fact that the water isn't quite so hot, we're talking upper 70s to lower 80s, is good news. You typically need that number to be at least 86 for rapid intensification.
If a storm like that came through, the cooler waters would keep it less severe, and then it could potentially keep the waters cool as more storms move through?
Exactly, and that could prevent, we have cooler waters now. We could have cooler waters as we get toward the end of the month and the heart of hurricane season. Keep in mind, 70% of major hurricanes happen at the end of August into early October. So if we can keep that cooler water momentum going, that's good news for us. But don't let your guard down. The Gulf of Mexico can still be a problem, even though it's not a direct hit for North Carolina. You can get those remnant storms that still have a big impact on us.
A lot of people, we talk about the growth in this community all of the time. A lot of people are just getting used to this time of year and hearing our meteorologist, watching these storms move in. What can people expect as we go through the next month and a half?
Well, we're definitely not done. We're just now getting to the peak of hurricane season, which is September. You got this system here we're watching. There's going to be another one coming behind it. So we still have a lot to watch over the next month and a half. And the chance that this system develops closer to the Caribbean as we get toward the middle of next week is probably going to go up. So we're going to be watching that one. That's the next one to watch. There will be many more to go. But the big story right now is, of course, the heat that we are dealing with. So let's take a look at the heat that we're still going to be dealing with for the next couple of days. Tomorrow morning at the bus stop, it's already 73 degrees at 8 a.m. As kids head home, we're talking mid to upper 90s, plenty of sunshine, and the heat's going to stick around through the weekend. It backs off a little bit, but we're talking, low 90s instead of upper 90s. The heat index between 100 and 105 tomorrow, just below heat advisory criteria. We could get to heat advisory criteria 105 on Thursday. And then by the weekend, low 90s for highs, the heat index in the upper 90s. It's going to be a steamy weekend and holiday weekend at that. But there are signs that we actually see some cooler weather returning next week. I don't think we're going to see those lows in the 50s like we saw last week. It looks more like next week we could see highs in the low 80s, lows in the low 60s, and depending on rainfall, maybe some upper 70s for highs. That's if we get lucky. I'm not ready to put that on the graphics just yet. But we will have increasing storm chances over the weekend. So if you need some rain, you might by the end of this week, believe it or not, after the heat. We've got a 40% chance of storms Friday and Saturday, a 60% chance Sunday, and we actually lowered that chance to 40% for Labor Day. Keep in mind, meteorologist Mike Mays and myself, we review these numbers, change them, and edit them every day based on new model data, and meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner will do the same thing tomorrow morning. It's that time. We've got the sunsets back during the 7 o'clock newscast. I mean, kind of bittersweet. You get the beautiful picture here from the Natural Sciences Museum, but the sun is setting earlier, 89, the dew point 70 degrees, feeling more humid out there. Not as bad as we are sometimes during the month of July, though. Upper 90s come to an end by the time we get to the weekend. And then here's that cooler air that I mentioned. It doesn't get here till the middle of next week, but it should be a little less hot, and those numbers should keep falling toward the middle of the week.
Okay, we'll look forward to that. Thank you, Kat. One last thing to tell you about Dix Park in Raleigh has plans to install more art, and the artist could work on site. We're back in about 2 minutes. We've got one last thing to tell you about tonight. A bit of a reprieve from all the serious news today. Dix Park in Raleigh is looking for an artist in residence. They would work in a renovated space, coming up with art installation ideas. Dix Park has a history of interesting art. In 2018, there was a Light the Woods with Sound exhibit where you could play music and then the lights would flash along. In 2021, the Wings of the City sculptures were put in, sticking around for about a year. In June, the 18-foot tall Attune sculpture was installed. And later this fall, 2 huge metal sunflowers will go up. So who knows what we're going to see coming out of this program.
And it's encouraging working artists to come here and do their work because it pays. I mean, it's a good grant, and let's see what happens. Thanks for joining us here tonight on WRAL News. Our next newscast is at 10 o'clock on Fox 50 and 11 on WRAL.
We leave you with a beautiful sunset from Pinehurst. Good night.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.